Thank you, everyone, being here and join the talk. I know it's the last talk of the day, and I hope this talk you will learn a little bit more about the AI and particularly this new exciting type of AI, which is generative AI. So let's kick off today's meeting. Basically, we will talk about why generative AI is the future, and how it really works. I think this part, I really hope everyone can take away some whole message about that. And then we will look at some use cases of that and know what exactly really means as a business runner, as a consumer, this new type of AI means for us. Here I will go through 3 use cases, and then we will look at these challenges and how at Boltzbit we try to help people overcome those challenges. So first, why generative AI is the future? Why is it exciting? So last Sunday, I just saw this article, a briefing from the Economist. They said, and generative AI is really changing the world, and it is really happening right now. And a lot of people heard of this word. It's trending. It's like AI can generate text, can generate fake image, and can really do some things human capable of. But what does it really mean? What is the impact of it, right? So for us, and here at this conference, we care about AI, what it really means, our work in our life. So the typical AI is running on label data. So labeling we know is costly. It's basically ask us to solve the problem and AI mimic it. And second is one-off AI. So every task you want to solve, and AI have to copy it. We have to do the labor work for it. And also, it is small, usually because it's handcrafted for each problem. So engineer had to put effort into it. It's very hacky. So generative AI is a new AI that solves all of this problem. But how? Well, it is trained on unlabeled data, so you don't need to label it. Typical, my clients ask, what do you mean by that? It's basically just typical the documents you work with, PDFs, reports, text, image, whatever you do, no labels, that's it. This means unlabeled data. And it is reusable. And what it means? It means just you train the AI once, and then you don't need to train it again when you get a new task. You just keep growing, throw new tasks to it. So it's reusable. It saves a lot of effort and time. And also, it has big capacity. Not surprised, because it solves so many problems, so it has to be big. Well, then how it works exactly is magic, right? It sounds like it's too good to be true. How can it be like that? So this is the key question I want everyone get to know after this talk. Let's start with something very simple. Labeling a document here, and I put generative AI and narrow AI side by side. By the way, narrow AI means non-generative, just solve one task. Well, why we do this, a big monster solving simple labeling, right? But it changed, because now AI is scalable. We will soon have a lot of tasks, right? When we have multiple tasks, and the one side build multiple AI, the other side just extend the network to accommodate those tasks. Well, this is just another way to build more AI, right? It's not a big deal. Well, now we can group those labels into documents, right? So when you have multiple targets, they are not just the single targets anymore. They become a part of the input data, the documents itself. So, okay, just playing the words, okay, a couple of labels becomes documents, then what? Then actually, we can pull the output of a neural network back into the input, let it loop itself and learn from what is output and into its input. And then now you see the magic happened. Label disappeared, right? Only documents, right? This is the thing, like everyone talking about generative AI, multitasking, but this is the point actually, you really, generative AI go beyond of just build a lot of neural networks, right? And even better, combine this generative AI's self-learning with this fine-tuning. So we can always extend the neural network with another neurons and learn specific tasks. And combine these two things together, we got something very powerful and very reusable, right? So this is how generative AI can achieve better performance than a single AI. You see, it's actually, in this diagram, these blue parts are task-specific parts. It's very small, actually, in the generative AI case. But this purple part, which is generative pre-training on huge documents, a lot of tasks combined together, that gives it power. So the normal AI trained from zero, generative AI trained from zero, trained from hero, basically. This is how you can get a hot start, right? Okay, just recap. Based on this generative pre-training plus fine-tuning for specific tasks, we achieved use unlabeled data to build powerful AI, right? And we can reuse it, right? And also it has big capacity. Well, sounds great, but there's something hidden there, right? It must be expensive, but I'll leave it later. Let's first look at it, how useful it can be, right? Let's just talk about this documents extension, but how it really means for build AI applications. So let's look at 3 use cases here. Right? The first one at Boltzbit, we try to help our clients to really label data better, using labeling data, how that could connect to generating things. But here is one example. So think about this. You had a flight and it's shitty, and the airline asked you to write a review. What would you do? Say, no, I don't want. Why wasting time? But with our generative AI, you can just leave 3 keywords here, like dirty, loud, delay, and then generative AI can, based on your flight information and your information, and write up the review automatically based on millions of reviews it has seen. So this saves the time of the passengers to writing reviews. So this encourages them to lower the barrier to really give feedback. And we can do it even better because when we generate the language, we also generate the sentiment with it. And the passenger can directly select, okay, this is a positive sentence or negative sentence. So you don't need to beg your customer, write a review, and guess what it really mean from it. You get the true label right after it by empowering them to write things faster, easier, right? So next example, so OCR, which is extracting digital information from documents, which is also typical labeling problem everyone knows. How the hell generative AI can work here? Yes, it does, right? Because to recognize documents, to move it beyond, it's not just recognize a couple of digits, numbers, names on your invoices. We're handling thousands of, even millions of business documents, mix of text, tables, and all of kind of structured information. And to get those structured information out, that is non-trivial. But with generative AI's power, it understands the syntax of the text, understands the syntax of the layout. It can get those structures right out and put documents into a formatted database. And you can download this in Excel right away. So this saves a tons of time for people to really go through digital documents. So the last use case, which is inspired by my experience, right? Running a startup is a hard job, so I need to coordinate a lot of meetings. Yes, so I basically cannot survive without Calendly. Right? It is very nice. It saves time for me, but when I try to use Calendly to book meeting with the others, I realize it's actually not very friendly at that moment because you need to go through the user interface on the web, and you can select the meetings, and the meetings time may not be flexible, right? A lot of things, arranging meeting is actually not as simple, just click a couple of buttons, right? But the way to arrange meeting, the most natural way is just drop an email. Nothing wrong with that, right? But back and forth conversation is very exhausting. So here, Boltzbit, we developed AI that can understand the intention of the meeting booking, extract all the information out, and use that to write a piece of code to integrate with Google Calendars and other calendar providers directly book your meeting or cancel a meeting or move your meeting. So on both sides, the meeting organizer or the other attendees can just write lines of texts and everything happens. No complex GUIs, no set up meeting slots. That's simple, right? So all of this, it looks like nothing like generative AI, how it fits in, but actually it does, right? And how it fits into it, this is what I want everyone to be aware of it. It's as normal as how we work, Here is not rocket science. It's basically just a procedure, read the text, understand information, and book meeting, but except not book meeting through Google Calendar's GUI, you just write the code. Yeah, so nothing magic. It just, actually, it's more normal than the narrow AI to us. So, okay, now the part of the good side is over. Yes, now let's look at the dark side of it. Well, we cannot ignore generative AI in general. They need special hardware, which is GPU, which is typically need, and it needs a lot of cutting-edge research. It is not something out of the box. You can just do it, right? So AI talents is essential for develop generative AI. No surprise, let's look at the list of generative AIs we have here. Well, BERT, began, for those who, excuse me if you don't know these terms, they are all the different kind of generative AI. And we can look at the neural network size. It's like the smallest one is million levels. And the biggest one, which is by Chinese Academy of AI, which is 1.7 trillion parameters. I mean, even serving that model needs a supercomputer, right? And look at their research domain. They deep into specific AI domain, NLP, CV, RL, which means reinforcement learning, control problem. So it is all a lot of research into it. So it is amazing, like what I said, a lot of use cases out there, but it seems also so far from us, which is a problem we Boltzbit want to solve. We want to make generative AI really accessible and really useful for everyone. But how we do it? We do it by leveraging cost-friendly, effective cloud, right? So now there are a lot of cloud resources out there. Without it, Boltzbit is not possible, which is essential. But also, there's something that is really amazing with generative AI, which is because it's so general with all of different tasks. Actually, we don't even bother to write the code because we write whatever application code, it's just some documents and then the same neural network architecture. So this actually allows us to really go extreme to no-code AI, which is here low-code is still for the developers. They need to interact with our AI's interface, but actually the whole AI development, even internally without code. Yes, our engineer is not allowed to write any ML code because that could be bug. Yes, all the code has to be tested and auto-generated for AI training. Yeah, and also we want to support the communities, open source communities, because just have this amazing technology, it does not really do anything. Without community support, we cannot really get it into applications and making impact. Well, here I just gave you a quick walkthrough of how this generative AI platform on Boltzbit looks like. So the first step, you just like any platform you're using, just click a couple of buttons and type in where the data set is sitting, either in local file or Google Cloud, or in HubSpot or any third-party data source. We can just integrate it into our system, and we will do automatically data format detection, cleaning, all of this just prepared. And then after that, if you are an engineer, then you can use our graphical interface, drag and drop, build up neural network architectures to customize for your need. If you are not an engineer, you can just skip this because our system, trained on a lot of data sets, is capable of recommend very reasonable hot start initial neural network architecture. Then just a button, or even you don't bother to click it, we can automatically start it for you. Yeah? And then the training will be monitored and progress all being reported. You can just simply check it, just the progress bar, nothing special. And then after that, we allow you to just use one click to deploy your AI to anywhere, right, on cloud or to your own private Docker HubSpot. And it is all supported. And here, particularly on this screen, what I'm showing you here is actually the API design phase. Because generative AI, it is capable of solving a lot of different problems, but you don't want to serve it all the time, right? You actually can dynamically define what kind of API you want to predict, right? And then this can go live right away, just within a second. So we are a tech company, and we're really dedicated to push generative AI to its limit and deliver its value. This is make us very, very important value to have strong partners like Intel to support us, to work on not only using GPUs, like what I mentioned, special hardware. We want to work with them on CPUs to really push generative AI runnable and usable on CPUs. And just to summarize, look at this kind of AI landscape where Boltzbit is really at. So we're basically at the corner where we want to provide auto ML capability, the power of AI, to all the business, but with generative AI form, not narrow AI, which we already have plenty of. But if we look at the AI solutions, they are also getting crowded. A lot of generative AI specific NLP or vision solutions out there. But what we want is to really give this capability to the data owner, to who need AI, to let you guys to do it, because the data and AI itself, us, cannot really solve the problem. We have been published on the top AI conferences, and we got support from the deep tech in Europe and UK. So Boltzbit is founded by 3 passionate AI researchers and engineers. We work at Google and Twitter, and we're really passionate about to get the dream of AI to the hand of everyone. That's it. Thank you very much. Yes. I think we still have time for questions. Yes.
Antoine from Siren. High level, we are all wondering how can a machine learning model work without the correction of humans, without something telling it that this is right, this is wrong, to learn.
Yes.
So this, if you can explain to us very high level how this works internally. Even if it loops back, if it is looping back without a correction of something, how?
So here the answer to this question is not possible, right? Not possible, right? But generative AI changed the game is I don't need to label things for particular task. Particularly, I think what you have in mind is like labeling human face, right? So how can you learn human face without label, no, this is eyes and this is nose? But there are tons of data not for this particular case out there on the internet, like fashion magazines, makeup magazines, and a lot of this kind of data out there, which is not labeled for solving these AI tasks, but it is semi-labeled or not labeled for the task data there. And this is come back to the point. In generative AI, we don't distinguish labels or documents. Image, text, they are both documents. So we don't need to label the data for particular task. But that does not mean we can solve a task that is without a label, right? So basically, another way to answer it, you cannot solve image tagging by only using image data. But you can combine image and text together. You can solve it. Oh.
Thanks. How are you compensating for kind of different data formats as an input, and can you also support multimodal AI as well?
Yes, exactly. Like what I mentioned, multimodal is basically the standard of our thing. Because with single type of document, the use case is very limited. Actually, we support this kind of like a search engine over multimodal documents. That is one of the big use case.
Awesome. And what kind of architecture are you using for your models to allow those different types of inputs and different kind of sizes of inputs as well?
Sorry, you use...
So for having those different types of inputs and different sizes of inputs, what kind of input architecture are you putting into your models to allow for that?
So our input architecture need to adjust to different data types. We have certain automated design principles and benchmarked against with the performance and the computational performance. This is basically how we do it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Similar to this question, I want to dive a bit deeper into the understanding of the data, your input data. You showed an example where you could extract information from tables. To do that, normally you have to do some kind of document structure analysis or something to understand the position. So what is the input? I mean, you can't just push plain text into there, right?
Yeah, this is a good question. I can answer this. And think about it. Basically, generative AI, put yourself in the shoes of generative AI. Now I ask you to generate documents. Would you scramble all the words and throw it on the document and say it's similar to? No, because the location and alignment of those words is also part of the thing that you want to mimic. And this is the supervision. Yeah, think about it. If you completely go nowhere and no knowledge of document structure, you cannot generate a document looks like the input document, right? So if you really can fool people to generate that looks like a nice financial report, then you must have this table structure there mimic somehow. Yeah.
So is it correct to say that you have bespoke input systems depending on the data that you have?
Yes, depends on everything hidden, all the secrets hidden in the data, the structure. No data, no information, nothing can come out. Yeah.
Any more questions? No, everybody's tired, wants to go for drinks, things like that. Thank you very much. One more.
Thank you.
Thank you.